Well, Hunter's plea deal comes as the president has kicked off his re-election campaign in earnest. The president maintaining that his son did nothing wrong. South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace joins us now. Congresswoman, always great to have you. Want to get your reaction to what we found out today, because this is a Biden Justice Department serving justice on the president's son. Having said that, how will this investigation move forward, especially in light of the recordings that we've heard about that could actually implicate the president himself?
Well, I will tell you, the House Oversight Committee is not going to stop now. In fact, we're even more encouraged because the DOJ proved today that they are not serious about holding the Biden family accountable for crimes that have been committed. This is just a slap on the wrist. This is a sweet deal for Hunter Biden on a nothing burger tax charge and federal gun charges, when in fact we have seen evidence of racketeering, RICO, money laundering, bribery, prostitution rings, you name it, and they have yet to charge him 5, 6, 7 years later, not to mention the current president's involvement in any of those schemes.
On those other charges that you just mentioned, would you expect those to come eventually?
Well, I do believe that the House Oversight Committee, we're going to follow the facts wherever they take us, but I do believe the House Oversight Committee will refer charges to DOJ on other illegal doings by Hunter Biden, by other members of the Biden family, and maybe even the current president, because we've seen time after time, whenever Joe Biden makes a denial, that in fact what he denies is actually true.
Congresswoman, my concern with all of this is the plea deal and the fact that this is an ongoing investigation all serves essentially to block finding the truth on the bigger questions, which have to do with foreign influence. Correct. Do you think that is going to happen? Are you concerned, in fact, that this strategy may be effective in keeping us from what Americans really want to know, which is, are we compromised in some way because our president's compromised?
Well, it's certainly a distraction for mainstream media, who hasn't covered any of the evidence that we've uncovered on House Oversight. And here you have a DOJ who wants to give a slap on the wrist, no prison time, a mild indictment to Hunter Biden, and yet they want to sentence to death Donald Trump because his last name is Trump. And so it's not a serious organization. I do believe this is yet another distraction from what's really going on in the House Oversight and Judiciary investigations, and we'll get to the bottom of it no matter what the DOJ says.
Congresswoman, I want to switch gears here for just a second. Former President Trump sat down with Fox News' Bret Baier. This is what he had to say about what he might want to change the next time around. Listen.
What did you learn from your first term that you took from, and changes that you would make if you get elected?
I would like to be less combative, but I find the press is extremely dishonest. And if I'm not combative, I don't get my word across. If I'm not combative, I don't know. I don't think you could win. I think regardless, me or somebody else, if somebody else got the nomination, these radical left maniacs would come after them at a level like you've never seen before, and they're not going to be able to withstand it. Our country is sick.
Congresswoman, you are acquainted, shall we say, with some of the former president's combativeness. He says, yep, look, I might want to change that. On the other hand, he says, I don't know if I can, but you look around the world right now, especially with what's going on with China, and you kind of say to yourself, maybe sharp elbows are really what we need right now.
Well, when you compare and contrast Joe Biden, who shows weakness on the world stage, with Donald Trump, who only exhibits strength, and they're not that many years apart, you see strength and wit and smarts. And under President Trump, love him or hate him, we had the lowest unemployment rate for every American, black, brown, woman, male, female, you name it. We had bipartisan prison reform in this country. We had tax cuts that we hadn't had in decades, and our economy was very healthy. And so there's something to be said about the strength that Donald Trump can bring to the table. But I appreciate his acknowledgement of tone, that tone does matter. I represent a very purple district. I've been on the other end of Donald Trump's ire. I've been given a lot of nicknames. I was primaried. But the American people want to know that their leader of their country is going to fight for them. They're going to fight for the right things. And at the end of the day, I think that tone matters. Being able to be a leader and show leadership during very divisive times right now is what our country needs. Someone who can bring our country together.
Congresswoman, he needs to gain the support of independents in order to win a general election. Women are included in that category as well, but women have been some of the ones that have been hardest hit by inflation because they manage the budgets in their households. Do you think this time around President Trump will gain more traction with independent women?
Well, I think it's going to be very important for Donald Trump to look at who he pairs with on the ticket. He needs a strong woman who can bring suburban moms to the table, can bring independent and centrist voters, because otherwise, no matter who the nominee is, whether it's Donald Trump or anybody else, if we don't have a woman who can bring centrist voters to the table, get them to cross the finish line, we're not going to win the majority. We will not keep the House, we won't win the White House, and certainly we'll lose the Senate. And so my message to Donald Trump, my message to any candidate in the Republican primary today is to think about how we're going to cross over and get independent voters and centrist voters. I've been able to do that. I have crossed many barriers as a woman in South Carolina in the 1st Congressional District, broken many barriers. I have found a way to bring together independents, Republicans, and Democrats, and that's what we really need to do. Think long and hard about who we're going to nominate, who will be the vice presidential candidate, so that we can cross the finish line and win big in 24.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.